In this video, we're going to have a deeper look at Snapseed, which is a Google app, and it's free, both for Android and iOS. I'm going to show you all the main features that I use pretty often, I would say. Sometimes happen that I shoot pictures with my camera, I edit maybe with Photoshop Desktop and Lightroom, but then I like to import these photos in my phone and then add some details with Snapseed or lens distortion. Let's dig into the app. Okay, so after we open Snapseed, you can choose the picture that you want from your device, or either you shoot a picture right there. Okay, for example, let's have a look at this picture. Here we have the possibility to open the Tools menu, where you can find all these information, all these different features that Snapseed offers. The first one is Tune Image, where it allows you to modify all the basic settings of the image: brightness, contrast, saturation, ambience, highlights, shadows, and warmth. Basically, they're very similar to what we've seen with Lightroom, so I'm not gonna go through this. I already edited this picture. The next menu that I want to show you is Details. I really like the structure of Snapseed. So usually I like to put it around +10 or +15 depending on the image. One effect that you can do with the structure is to remove it all to create this dreamy effect in a picture. It depends on how you want it. I like to have some structure in it. Now I want to show you two of my favorite menus: Selective and Brush. In the Selective menu, that I use very often, allows you to click on a part of the image and select by zooming in with two fingers, pinching in and pinching out, a bigger or smaller parts of the image based on color and luminance. What does that mean? Basically, now that I clicked here on the sky, it's gonna select all the part of the image. They're very similar with luminance and colors. And then once I'm here and I selected with the red dot right there, all the red part is selected, I can drag it up or down to increase brightness, contrast, saturation, or structure. For example, let's go in brightness. And then I drag my finger on the right, slide on the right to increase the brightness. And then you can see in the circle is green because I'm increasing the brightness. If I slide on the left, it's gonna become red. So I'm decreasing the brightness on the selected area. Okay, let's see if it's 0 now. What I can do is to click on the plus button on the bottom to add another selective filter. For example, right now, let's go on the green part, on the grass. Here, I can pinch in or pinch out to select more or less area. But as you can see, selecting only the greens and not the beach, not the yellows. All right? So even here, I can do the exactly same thing. I can increase the brightness, decrease the brightness, or even decrease the saturation or increase the saturation. It's totally up to you if you want to select some parts and modify only a little part of the images. Next menu that I want to show you is Brush. This is a bit complicated, but let me try to be as clear as possible. We have different brushes. Each brush has a different function. When we go in temperature, for example, as we've seen before, we can change to warm as yellow or to cold tones as a blue. How much we're changing depending on the number that we have down here. For example, we have +10, so it's going to change a lot. If we can go +5, we can go +5 or even decrease the temperature. That means going to the cold tones. For example, let's select -10 temperature, and then I can zoom in or zoom out to have a bigger or smaller brush. Okay, so let's zoom in to have a smaller brush, and let's paint on this rock to make it more blue, to have a cold tone. Okay, just need to drag your finger like this and color the image that you're modifying with these settings that you just put. And at the same time, you can do the exactly same thing with the other brushes. For example, if you want the exposure, if you want to increase the exposure of the bottom of the picture, you can put, for example, exposure 1.0, maybe zoom in a little bit and then increase the exposure of this part of the image. Of course, now it doesn't make any sense because I already edited this picture and it's already perfect, doesn't need anything else. But if we want, for example, to darken only a little part of the image with the brush, we can go in exposure, go in minus, for example, -0.3. We zoom in on the left part of the image where are all these people that I don't want to see. And then we just paint on top of it. And this is the before and after of this part. As you can see, I darken a little bit with the brush that part of the image that I didn't want to be too bright. At the same time, you can do the exact same thing with saturation. If you want to remove some saturation from a single part of the image, you can go, for example, -0.5 and then remove the saturation from this part of the sea, which I don't want to be too blue. I just want to be more white, more without color. And this is the difference that you see. From blue, look at this part of the sea, from blue to gray to white, without colors. Let's have a look now at the healing menu, which I showed you before already a little bit. The menu that I showed you before is healing. As I mentioned before, you just need to zoom in if you want to make the brush smaller, and then drag your finger on top of the people that you want to remove, maybe twice, to remove everything that you don't want. With people, could be pimples, could be imperfection of the photo. Snapseed is pretty good, but sometimes you need to do it more than once. For example, here, these people are gone. Yeah, there you go. And this is the effect. And you can keep going, keep doing it with all the people, with patience, and then you can create the perfect picture. And you can use the exact technique for example, removing pimples from the skin. Like, look at this picture. I did it just with Snapseed, and here is before and after. It's pretty easy, huh? Another effect that you can use is vignette. It's exactly the same as Lightroom as we've seen before. You go in Tools and then Vignette. You drag to the left if you want a black vignetting, or if you drag to the right if you want a white vignetting. And then we have the export menu that allows you to either save the original photo with the changes that you made, so you won't have the original photo, you just have the one with the adjustments, or either you save a copy, so you can have both the original and the modified one. Save a copy, and it's gonna apply all the effects that you applied. And this is it. The last thing that I want to show you is double exposure. It is pretty difficult to understand how it works and to put into practice, but I just want to give you some examples of what you can do with this. Let's start with this picture. What the double exposure does is that you can put a picture on top of another picture, reducing the opacity. Therefore, you're going to see both of them. Let me show you. So we start with this one, and then we go in Tools and Double Exposure. Here we add a new picture, we choose the picture that we want, for example this one, and then it's gonna add on top with a lower opacity than normal, so you see both pictures. For example, right now I'm just gonna zoom the top image, okay, and this looks pretty good. What I'm gonna do is you can change the opacity of the picture on top, so you're gonna see more or less of the picture on the bottom. Let's leave it like this, for example. This one looks pretty good. But what I can do is I go in Crop, select the format that I want, 7.5, rotating vertical, which is the Instagram format, and then click OK. And this is the final picture, before and after. It's pretty cool, right? We export it and we're done. Okay, let me show another example. Let's start from this picture, which is a silhouette of myself that I did during sunset. We go, and then we click double exposure, and then for example, let's add the sunset that we edited before. Yeah, there you go. Looks pretty good, isn't it? Export, save a copy, and there you go. Okay, this is all for Snapseed. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson, where we're gonna talk about lens distortion, an amazing app for post-production. Ciao!